Hey everybody, Brendan here, welcome back to another tournament game analysis video. Today we're going to be covering round number 4 of the Mississauga Spring under 2100 section. I am on a +2 score from the first 3 rounds. I drew my first round game and then won the next 2. And now I'm playing against Michelle, who we have a bit of a history against. We played them 2 times before I took a break from chess, and then once after, I ended up losing that encounter after getting a pretty good opening. Let's see what happens this time. I'm playing with the black pieces here. E4, C5, knight F3, D6, D4, C takes D4, and here my opponent surprises me already. They play queen takes D4, which objectively should not really be too challenging, something we have to worry about too much. Knight c6, bishop e5, bishop d7, just kind of forcing them to develop our bishop, which is something we're happy about. Bishop takes, knight c3. So we can pretty much say that the opening has gone our way. We have our bishop pair. We're a little bit behind in development, but the bishop pair and these types of positions generally will make up for it. e6. Now bishop g5, which is a little annoying. And here I should probably just play knight f6 and then bishop e7. I decided to be a little bit more fancy with it and play queen b6, which is probably not really the best choice. Because after queen takes and a takes, the problem is these doubled b pawns are quite weak. My argument was that this gets rid of a little bit of the initiative, and that was a big thing that I wanted to do, because then the bishop pair would show itself. And while that's somewhat true, the double isolated pawns are a problem, and there's still some initiative. Knight d4. I played knight f6, giving back the bishop pair. I think it's actually just a straight up mistake to take. They don't, because if we get into a position like this, my center is actually great. Bishop e7, I can castle long or castle short. And well, yeah, the position kind of plays itself. Even though this looks really strange, it's like connect 4 with all my pawns on the E all the way to B file on the 6th rank here. It's actually pretty good for black. Instead, F3 was played. This just defends E4 here, because I'm threatening, like, potentially to take it. Not quite immediately. I believe, let's just see. Actually, you know what? No, I am threatening to take it. My apologies, because g5 is hanging. So if they take on c6, we can also take on c3. So that's not an issue either. Knight d4, we can play something like knight d5 or knight a4. Eventually we come back, and being a clean pawn up in this position is actually a really big deal. So f3 was played, which does defend the pawn, yeah. Bishop e7, long castles. I end up short castling here. h6 is probably better because we want to actually just be a bit active here with a move like d5, where this is now enticing them to take, and we're not really worried about losing this guy because we can get pretty good compensation for it with a move like bishop b4. If they want to prevent their knight from getting taken, there's only one move that doesn't just like lose the a2 pawn immediately, which is bishop d4. But eventually the a2 pawn falls anyways. Takes, and then rook takes a2. And we actually just get the pawn back through pretty concrete means. I ended up castling instead because I didn't see that. a3 was played. Now there's no problems with that pawn anymore, unfortunately. I play rook fd8, just to maybe prepare some sort of d5. Also, it's just like a normal developing move, and maybe I bring my king in now that my rooks are connected. We see bishop e3, and I play knight d7 just to cover b6. I'm not really too worried if they take on c6 here. I think, again, this favors me, and black can even try to claim some sort of slight advantage with better central control, arguably. But knight db5 was played, which is annoying. I could play something like knight c5 in order to cover d6. I decided to take on b5 first, which doesn't really help matters. Knight c5. And what I had calculated here was that b4 might not really work out correctly for them. It turns out it does. So b4, I originally had looked at knight a4. And I was thinking like, okay, everything's defended. The knight's a little weird here, but, you know, I can play rook ac8 and play on. But there's actually a problem with this knight where the rook is going to be stuck on a8 because c3, king c2, and king b3 are going to come. And that's kind of hard to avoid, actually. So this position is actually just straight up losing at this point. But my opponent does not find that. They just take on c5 immediately, which I think just alleviates so many problems. I take with the b pawn. It was tempting to also consider taking with the d pawn here. But I didn't really like that because, well, again, we have the double isolated pawns. If we have a choice to correct our pawn structure, I'd rather do that. We see c4, which here I wasn't worried about because I saw this concrete variation starting with rook a5. And now all of a sudden, we have threats in a position like d5, trying to take advantage of the fact that the knight on b5 is poorly placed. Because if we can play d5 and then also like d4 right after or something, like d5 is a threat. Let's just say they play h3 or something. Right now, bishop g5 is recommended. It's not even recommended immediately to play d5, but also like it seems to have about the same evaluation when I'm checking it with the computer as well. E takes. They can throw in rook he1 or something. But the big point is they cannot play the move takes on d5 because we can win the knight. So that is a pretty big deal, and that's very good for us. That's why Michel ends up playing knight c3. I play bishop f6, king c2, and my immediate reaction was, with this variation, I was going to take and play b5. That was my goal. Takes, and this position looked excellent. And I'm not sure why I didn't go for it. I actually played king f8 instead. We see rook d2, and now again I should take. I should take and then play b5. This is the break that's screaming to be played. I take, and I play king e7, which makes things a little bit more difficult. It should be fine. Rook hd1, b5. Like, b5 is just screaming to be played out, and this is what I intended from the first place as well. But I didn't do that. I brought my rook back for no reason. Again, if I play b5 here, this is an excellent position. They have to play a move like b4 or something along those lines, but of course I can just take it, and I can just give up this pawn. Like, a line could go like this, where it even makes sense to just give up the pawn. And if they take, I just take here. And I'm actually going to be giving checks first. Rook d7 check is fine. I don't care. I go king f6, rook b3, rook b2 check. And I'm probably actually getting maybe some of the kingside pawns before they can. So this looks like a huge problem, actually. But that's not how it went. Instead, I played rook a8, which is not a good move. f4. I play h5 here, and this actually creates some problems now, because this pawn is actually weak in some king and pawn endings. Because they can play the move e5. And if I take, which I did, of course, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, rook takes d8, and king takes d8. Unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, this is actually just lost. So that is unfortunate. I had an easy way to equalize. It was just a completely equal position. But I found the only way not to. So that was fun. F takes e5. I played king c7. King d3. King c6. b4. I tried b5 here. Just to keep things at least hopefully a little messy. I was hoping for a chance to maybe play f6 and get a passed e-pawn, and then do something with that, or like f6, force them to take, I can take, and then e5, f5, e4 or something. But it just doesn't work out. C takes b5 check, king takes b5, b takes e5, king takes e5, king e4, king b5, king f4, and here's my problems, is that g5 is actually falling. If it was on h7, this would be a different story, but it's not on h7, is it? king a4, king g5, king takes a3, king takes h5, king b4, king g5, king c5, and they're in time to come back as well. And what they're going to do is they're going to play h4, h5, h6. They're going to create some dark square weaknesses. Either I take on h6 and they can recapture, or I push and then they have king f6. I play king c6 here. h5, king d7, h6, g takes h6, king takes h6, king c6, going back. Just like they have to find like one, not even one accurate move, but they just have to like know one idea, which isn't even that difficult, which is king d5, just to play king f6, and then after king e4, just to play g4 here, which is not in like a hard move to find. So my opponent ended up playing g4 and I ended up resigning. So it's pretty unfortunate. I allowed some problems in the opening when I had a easier time to equalize. So I made it a little bit harder for myself with queen b6 and doubling my pawn structure like that. And then I also had an immediate way to equalize with playing the b5 break, which I had on several occasions, and I just didn't do it for some reason. And yeah, that's pretty frustrating. I don't really have a good reason as to why that happened, and that's very frustrating. Is whenever you lose, and you lose in a way when you think about it, that's like you can't really take a lesson away from it. It just makes the loss that much worse because it feels pointless. Like I can't really say it's like that I didn't see it. I saw it. It's not that it's like I misevaluated it. No, I evaluated that as it was going to be fine. So what was the problem? I really genuinely do not know. So that was really frustrating. That was a stupid game on my part, and that was the first loss of the event. I'm still on a +1 score though, so I'm going into the last round on +1, so I can't finish the tournament with anything worse than an even score, which is nice. But again, yeah, not really the most inspiring game. I hope you guys did enjoy though. I thought this was still pretty interesting, and maybe we can take away the fact that I need to work on pawn breaks a little bit more. At least that's a pattern where maybe it is that I'm hesitant to play pawn breaks, but maybe I was also trying to push for more. Again, it's really hard to explain it. It's about 2 months after the game happened that I'm recording this, so it's a little bit less fresh in my mind, but yeah, that's about it. All right, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in round number 5. Have a good one. Bye-bye.